In this lesson, we're going to be talking about managing credit cards. So a credit card is basically a small loan. Every time you purchase something with a credit card, you're borrowing money to pay for that thing. So as with any loan, you're going to have to pay that money back. So a credit card company is giving you the loan, and every month you have to pay back what you borrowed from them during that month. The catch is they charge you interest. So if you don't pay back the full amount, you have to pay more than what you borrowed. That's interest. And credit card companies charge very high rates of interest. So if you don't pay back your full amount each month, you're going to have to pay quite a bit more. And because of this, not everybody should use credit cards all the time. Now, credit cards are a good idea if you want to build up your credit rating, which allows you to get larger loans. Say if you want to get a mortgage to buy a house at some point in your life, then banks will look at your credit rating. If it's a good credit rating, then you're more likely to be able to get a mortgage. So if you use a credit card wisely and pay it back on time, that builds your credit rating. And if you don't pay back your credit card bills on time, then that kind of wrecks your credit rating and you're not going to be likely to get a mortgage. Now, if you have a credit card, every month you're going to get something that looks like this, either in the mail or you'll get it online. It's called a credit card statement. Basically, it tells you how much you owe, what you spent your money on, when the payment is due, and it tells you what the interest rate is if you don't pay it back on time. And so on most credit card statements, they'll have a similar format to this one that I've shown you here. And this is just an example I found on the internet, but it might not be set up exactly the same. But most of these words will appear at some point on your credit card statement. So it's important to know what they mean. The previous balance is the amount that you owed last month. So here we see previous balance, $74.24. So that means this person owed $74.24 to the credit card company last month. The credit limit is the amount that you're allowed to borrow, the maximum amount. You've heard of perhaps people maxing out their credit card. Well, that just means they've reached their limit. They're not allowed to borrow any more money. So here we see for this credit card, the credit limit is $1,500. So that just means this person cannot put more than $1,500 on their credit card. And credit limit, that's actually a good thing because once you've reached your limit, you're not allowed to borrow more money. So if you have trouble paying back your credit cards, it's good to have a limit so that you're not putting more and more and more onto your debt. Available credit is the amount that you're still allowed to borrow. So here you see credit limit is $1,500, but credit available is $1,221.50. So that means this person hasn't spent their entire limit. They still can spend this much. They haven't reached their limit. The new balance is different than the previous balance. If previous balance was what you owed last month, new balance is what you owe this month. And you'll usually see it in a couple different spots. Here we see it here. New balance, $278.50. We also see it up here, current amount due. They mean the same thing. So the amount you owe, or the amount due, is your new balance. Minimum payment. This is the lowest amount required by the credit card company for you to pay back this month. And we see it here. Minimum payment due, $20. A lot of people get in trouble here. They see this minimum payment due, $20, and they think, oh, I only have to pay $20. Well, this is where you get into trouble, because if you only pay back the minimum amount, you still owe the rest. And if you don't pay it back, they're going to charge you interest on it. So you're going to have a whole month of interest buildup until you pay the next bill. So it's a good idea not to just pay the minimum, because you might fall into the trap of getting interest charged, and you end up paying a lot more than what you had originally spent. And the last thing is the due date. So this is important to know. This is when the payment is due. So we see the payment due date right here. That just tells you when the credit card company needs to receive the payment. So you have to be careful with the due date, because it doesn't necessarily mean that's the day you did the online banking, because sometimes it takes a little while for the transaction to go through. So this is the day that the credit card company needs to have the money. So it's a good idea to pay your credit card bills before the due date, just to make sure that the credit card company gets it in time. Another thing that you'll see on most credit card statements is different rates of interest rates. They're usually around 20%. And what that means is if you make the payment in full by the due date, so if you pay back everything by the due date, you don't pay any interest. So that's good, because you don't want to pay interest. But if you don't pay the full amount, they're going to charge you interest at around 20%, depends on the credit card. But they're going to compound it daily. So every single day you don't pay it back in full, they're going to charge you interest, and they're going to calculate it every day. So interest builds up really fast with a credit card, because it's a high interest rate and they compound it every day. So you got to watch out. Make sure you pay attention to the due date. Make sure you pay attention to your new balance to see how much you owe. And when given the opportunity to increase your credit limit, it might not be a good idea. It's probably okay to have a small credit limit, because then you don't get into as much trouble when you can't pay back your credit card.